but it's about family and it
That's right, your family.
Hello BookTube Nation, I'm Sam here again with A Bear and a Bee Books, and today I wanted to talk about my middle grade March reading wrap-up. So for middle grade March, I ended up finishing 3 titles, which I thought was very good because I also did read some other things during March. I finished 7 books this month, which is actually really good for me lately. I'm quite pleased with that. And I finally found a new to me 5-star read for the year. Two in fact, so I was really excited to stumble upon those. Probably my favorite read of middle grade March was Inside Out and Back Again by Thanhha Lai, and that was really interesting. It's one of the ones that they recommended for a book in verse, and I really enjoyed it. It definitely sparked something in me to want to learn more about the Vietnam War. My uncle was in the Vietnam War, and I find it really intriguing. It's definitely a part of history that I don't know enough about, so reading that book really made me want to learn more, which is always a good thing. I've since selected some more historical fiction and different things like that that kind of center around that time frame, because I really find it interesting, the split of North and South Vietnam and what happened when South Vietnam fell, America pulling out of the war. The end of kind of that time frame is definitely what most appeals to me. So if you have any recommendations for that particular time frame in history, please let me know down below. I would love to hear your recommendations, and it's definitely something that I want to read further about. But I gave that one 5 stars, and I really enjoyed it and do recommend it. Next, I read Willa of the Wood, and this is by Robert Beatty. And okay, first, I didn't show this in my TBR, and it will be in my haul too, so you'll see it again. But this is one of the most beautiful books I think I've ever owned. I love nature. I grew up as a small child. Our property backed up to a bird sanctuary, and we were on a river, and we had lots of animals of our own. And so even though like I never got into it professionally, it is definitely one of my passions in life. But I just love this. It really feels like the dark green of the forest under the tree canopies. It's just absolutely beautiful. And then you have like this cameo here, and the end pages are just this nice shade of green. But this is just a beautiful book, and I'm really glad to have it. I also gave this 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. This to me, this is probably gonna show my age, but I can definitely do the above 30 tag. If anyone remembers the movie called Fern Gully, I loved that as a child. I used to have dreams about it. I wanted to be part of that world. I wanted to help save the forest. This book really gave me vibes of that. I also get teary-eyed towards the end of this book, so really any book that pulls at my heartstrings, which doesn't happen very often when I read, is definitely probably going to get bumped up a star just for that. It has diversity. It talks about Native Americans. In the book, you follow this young girl named Willa, and they say that she's part of the Night Spirit tribe, and so it kind of has some like almost fae lore to it and like early American folklore. So it has a lot to do with the animals and just the interactions of different people when people were homesteading out west, and when they were building the railroad across America. There's mentions of that. My background is in political science, so I had to take a lot of history courses in college, so I found a lot of the mentions of that in the background very intriguing. But it's really just about a little girl and how she is trying to survive in a world that is changing, and it's changing very rapidly, and everything that she knew to be her own is slipping away. And so It's a beautiful book of a coming of age, and it's just really good. The beginning for me was a little touchy, but once you really get into it, I think you can appreciate the voice, and I think it was just a beautiful read. And finally, last night, with like 10 minutes to spare, I finished Cartwheeling and Thunderstorms, and this is by Katherine Rundell, who is an author I have been meaning to get to, and I really enjoyed this. I gave this 4 stars. It's a shorter book, but it definitely still packs a punch. It again is kind of a coming of age story. It's about a young girl who grew up in South Africa, I believe, and she has her whole world changes as well, and she ends up going to different places, and it's just like, I don't want to spoil it because there are some definite spoilers in the plot, but it just shows how being strong in who you are and the journey that we all go through to learn who we are and be sure in ourselves is definitely rooted in this. It's about family and overcoming obstacles. It shows kind of both sides of people, like how people can be really awful and they can just tear you down, and then on the other hand it shows how in the most unlikely places you can find allies and people that can build you back up again. So I always find kind of that yin and yang of humanity really interesting. Sometimes in this world you can kind of let it get you down. There's so much negativity in the news nowadays, and so much negativity like out in the world itself, and I think sometimes it gets lost that there are still wonderful people out there willing to help, and there are still, you know, good things out there. This book is full of hope, and it was a really quick read, and I definitely recommend it. So those are all the books that I finished for Middle Grade March. I absolutely love this readathon. I want to thank the hosts for putting it together. I'll link my TBR video down below, which has the hosts information linked in it. So definitely check it out if you haven't participated yet. I really enjoy month-long readathons. I know sometimes you get lost in them, but for me, my life is really busy and changing all the time right now, and we went out of town, and you just never know what's going to happen. So I think that month-long readathons definitely work for someone like me right now. But anyway, I wanted to share those wonderful books with you today. Finally found 2 5 stars for the year, so I'm really excited. I'm sure that at least one of those will end up in my best books of the year. If you're a returning subscriber or new, I just want to thank you so much for taking your time to view my video. If you'd like to, please click the subscribe button down below, and in the comments, let me know what your favorite book is, and then that way we can kind of talk books, which is, you know, kind of the booktube point, right? Thanks for being here with me today. Farewell for now. Bye-bye. I've